Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Second Breakfast podcast. I'm Andy Roth, alongside Phil Duvall. Say hi, Phil.
Hi, Andy and Second Breakfast Nation.
It's Friday, Phil, and that means it's time for another viewer mailbag.
Mail bag.
Mailbag. So excited.
I'm trying to be very subdued because the last thing that Andy said to me right before he clicked on the camera is he goes, "You're so weird," and then he turned on the camera, and I'm like, "Well, now I have to be normal." There's a great moment in the newer Muppet movie, where they've decided to kidnap Jack Black, which clearly you should kidnap Jack Black if you get the opportunity. And he knows Animal, so Animal's the bait, and so Animal knocks on his trailer, and he comes out and he goes, "Oh, hey, Animal, what are you doing here?" And Animal goes, "Acting natural." That's a little bit how I feel right now. I'm trying to act natural.
Nice. I like it. No, that's, yeah,
Okay.
We're good.
Folks, mailbag people.
If you would like to be involved in a future viewer mailbag, please send your questions about literally anything. Try to keep it to movies, but we'll pretty much answer anything. To the email address secondbreakfastpodcast, all one word, @gmail.com.
I will not answer questions about botany. I want you to know it. I just want you to know it.
I'll take the botany questions.
Okay, fair enough.
I won't answer them well or correctly, but I'll take them.
That is a fantastic segue to our first question. Not answering it well or correctly. That's how I feel about this first question. Not for you, for me. I'm sure you will answer this with flying colors. This is our first question. Comes from a gentleman by the name of. Are we ready? By the way, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Your first question comes from a friend of ours named Evan. Evan says he begins by saying, "Hi guys." Hi Evan.
Hi Evan.
Konnichiwa? No, he's in China, not Japan.
Ni hao.
So you say ni hao. All right.
Ni hao.
Wow. I apologize to China and Japan for that.
Indeed.
Because I know that you all hate each other deeply.
Phil.
Yeah.
You just insulted a lot of people. Like a lot of them.
Sorry?
In terms of efficiency, you're right at the top.
Can I say something about that?
Please.
We've only just begun.
Nice.
Okay, ni hao. Hi guys. As a science/math/engineering person, I have a sensitivity to their use or misuse in movies. I'll save my question about accuracy in movies for another time. Thanks, Evan. I'm curious what you guys think is the best movie that uses a pure scientific or mathematical idea as its organizing premise or gimmick. Some examples: A Beautiful Mind, The Day After Tomorrow, Apollo 13, Ice Princess, hee hee, I don't know what that is, or Pi. Love the podcast, longtime listener, first time caller.
Long time, first time.
There it is. I have mixed feelings about this question, partially because I don't know anything about math, science, or engineering.
Nice.
Partially because I always get frustrated when viewers write in and say what is your favorite movie, and then give us examples. Because then I'm like, if I pick one of the movies you suggested, then I'm unoriginal.
True.
But if you hadn't suggested them, I might not have thought of them.
Fair. Can I say my snarky answer? My snarky answer for engineering is Bridge on the River Kwai.
Why is that a snarky answer? Because
it's not about engineering, but they're building a bridge.
My snarky answer is Apocalypse Now, because there's a whole scene where Dennis Hopper tries to describe that you can't land on the moon using fractions.
Yes.
You can't land on the moon with fractions? And I'm like, math, people. It's math.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Okay. I'll go. I want to disqualify The Day After Tomorrow, because I want to disqualify any movie made by Roland Emmerich, because even like, oh, let me just use my Apple computer to send a virus and infect the alien space machine in Independence Day. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, they run away, and I've talked about this before. They're running from the wind. No. It's so offensive, though, and I know he said he'll talk about accuracy later. I don't care. It makes me so angry.
Sure.
Okay. Also, The Happening, which those two movies just
Indeed.
okay. My answer actually is Apollo 13, because Apollo 13, when you watch it, is an example of a movie that, first of all, actually gets better with age. The more I think of that movie, the more I think it could have won for best film that year, and that would have been completely acceptable.
Sure.
Secondly, it is a movie that has no business being interesting, and has no business making any sense.
Sure.
And it is engrossing, and it makes you feel like you kind of understand the math and the engineering and the science behind all of it, when in reality I understand none of it. And that's amazing.
Indeed.
So I love the fact that he mentions the movie Pi. Pi is an honorable mention for me. It's not my favorite. It's just I've seen it once and it totally freaked me out. But it's a phenomenal idea about obsession and with math as an obsession. It's Darren Aronofsky's first movie. It's the weirdest movie that I've ever liked.
Nice.
And I want to give a shout out to Master and Commander: Far Side of the World, because it's a movie about the Age of Enlightenment and about it's sort of the discovery of evolution to some degree, like in a fictionalized sense, and but it's about how scientific minds deal with romantic minds, and I can respect that. The biggest one of the biggest clashes in the movie is these two very dear friends. One is very scientific minded, and the other one is very romantically minded, and watching them try to deal with that. And the romantic-minded one is a higher rank, so he wins. But, it's interesting to see how that plays out. I also want to point out, Andy, that any of these movies, I like Apollo 13, Master and Commander. Also, honorable mention to 10 Commandments for the scene where they're trying to, it's not the whole movie, but the scene where he's lifting up the monument, which is a completely phallic, moment. But what I like about any scene like Master and Commander or Apollo 13 or 10 Commandments where they show engineering or math from a long time ago is I'm always like, wow, they had that stuff a long time ago? And it's always guys with supercomputers the size of, a Chrysler and, pencils and horn-rimmed glasses, and I'm always like, or compasses. I'm like, you guys are amazing. Because now it's just let me pull out my computer, So anyways, I love those things. That's my answer.
Nice. Two things before I give you my answers. One, the whole thing, America spent zillions of dollars inventing a space pen that the ink would work, and the Russians used a pencil, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
You know that whole thing?
Yes.
Well, apparently the space pen is better because graphite will, slough off, and the dust will gum up the works in a spaceship. So take that, Soviet Union.
I love how you're finding even now reasons why the Soviet Union was deficient. I say without irony.
I watched The Americans, so it's in my brain. The
is that a good show? Is that a good show?
I love it.
I've got them all on the DVR just lined up, ready for my viewing pleasure.
Here's a question, and this is an honest question, because we have been dealing with this, it's so annoying that happens, since the movie came out, and I'm sure it's stupid. I just honestly can't figure out why, okay?
Okay.
In Independence Day, and I don't necessarily expect you to be able to answer this, but someone out there, maybe you, Evan, can tell me why, okay? In Independence Day, I get that, it seems silly that he uses a Mac to infect the alien ship with a virus, but let's not forget that they infected our satellites with a virus, so there has to be some sort of compatibility there. Why is it completely out of the realm of possibility that it could go the other way?
That's a good question. I would say, I mean, my first thought would be that like, well, they're more advanced than us, and the fact that they figured out our system before they attacked us means that doesn't necessarily mean we figure out their system in an hour or a day, like
True,
back.
but I wonder if that matters. And maybe it does, but I wonder if that
I
matters.
I think I honestly I feel like I brought up Independence Day just for one more reason to make fun of Roland Emmerich because realistically, I I don't
That's
expect
totally
any of
fair,
Independence Day to be
totally valid.
remotely.
But this is a science, math, engineering question that has
It's like
literally
one of those.
bothered me
It's like
for
one of those
years.
things. I would love to see what he thinks, but it's one of those things where it's not just that it infects it. Like the little, like literally, they take over their screen and like little skulls show up on the screen. And it's like
Fair.
it's
Yes.
very
Right.
like it's very like. I'm sorry. I feel like you couldn't even use a Mac to infect a PC, much less an alien, like an alien vehicle.
Fair.
That's. But you know what? It's Jeff Goldblum,
He
so
can do anything.
I kind of feel that way.
Must go
You
faster.
understand? You understand that
Must go faster.
Jeff Goldblum has been with Gina Davis at her height and Laura Dern at her height. These are two women that are both, first of all, statuesque.
Indeed.
Secondly, not pinups, but both legitimately like just elegantly beautiful women
Agreed.
who are very talented. I should say that immediately. So I'm just saying, Jeff Goldblum, he's got stuff up his sleeve.
And they're long sleeves because he's 18
Oh my
feet
gosh,
tall.
he's very, very tall. I love Jeff Goldblum. I love him. He had a TV show for like a minute, and I loved it. He played like a rogue cop, of course, like a detective, it was like Monk plus House equals this show. I don't even remember what it was
Okay.
called. And it was
All
on for
right.
like half a season, and I watched every episode and was like, please let Jeff Goldblum have a show where he plays an eccentric cop forever. And
Fair.
the world that embraced the Hawaii Five-O remake with open arms shunned this show, and that
Fair.
hurts my heart.
Fair.
The world that allowed Ted Danson to have Becker for like 10 years shunned this show.
Fair.
Okay, sorry. What's your answer?
Can I go?
I'm a little bit filled with piss and vinegar today, but go
A little
ahead.
bit. A little bit. So the first movie I want to mention is Pi because it's so much about math.
Yeah.
And it's just so well done, and I totally agree with you. It's so weird, but it's completely enjoyable. The other movie that I want to mention is a movie that I've mentioned a lot for various reasons. I just think it's a fascinating movie. I don't think the math is correct or the engineering is correct because it involves time travel. That movie is Primer, okay?
Okay.
It is a quiet little movie, but the thing about it is, like, it takes great pains to really be as airtight as it is possible to be when you are dealing with science that is, at this moment and probably forever, fantastical.
That's interesting.
And it really, like I don't know how many times you'd have to watch the movie to truly understand it. You can certainly enjoy it on the first time, but something that you definitely get that first time is this is as airtight as a movie about time travel is going to be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know that sounds silly, but I really mean it. Like
No,
you're
sure.
sitting there like, wow, this makes
Well, you know
total
what?
sense to me.
You know what you're making me think about
What's
is, I mean, think about Back to the Future. The idea that they're really playing with is if this doesn't happen, you don't exist, and so this picture doesn't exist. Like, that's legitimate. That's a legitimate stake that makes sense. And
Yeah.
by the way, I think what I need to do when we post this tomorrow is link to there is a phenomenal graphic that our friend TJ put up once, which is it is a chart of all the different kinds of time travel in movies and like time like the different movies that show different kinds of time travel and like
Primer is just
right. But I'm interested. I actually don't know if that's on the list, but I'm interested. Like the idea of I agree with you. See, I think like okay, we're going to try to make this fantastical thing happen, but seriously, what would be the most rational way for this to occur or the most
yeah.
airtight? I think that's a great answer. I love that.
And I do have a very brief honorable mention, and that is the square root song at the end of Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay. that he uses to woo his
I'm gonna
lady.
I'm gonna
Love
YouTube
it.
that as soon as I'm gonna YouTube that as soon as this is over. I need
He
to write
is
that down. So
totes adorbs is what it is. Totes adorbs. All right, let's move on. Let's move on.
okay. Okay, question. Oh, I was like, well, then move on. Oh, but I have the
Faster,
question.
pussycat. Kill, kill. Let's go.
Question number 2 is from our good friend Bobby. Now, you should know something before I ask you this question, Andy, or I'm going to let the viewers know. Viewers and listeners, we got this question like weeks ago, and we loved it so much that we didn't want to answer it because it made us nervous about who we are as people.
Sure.
And to be completely honest, I'm going to give an answer that I'm not satisfied with still.
Me too.
It's frustrating. In that sense, it's nearly a perfect question because it makes me think a lot, and I don't
Indeed.
and I can't come up with an answer that satisfies me, but I keep thinking about it. With
Sure.
that preface, here is the question from Bobby. Bobby says, if you could be any character from any movie, who would you be? Not in the sense of being that character in the film, but instead being them in your own real life. Let me explain a bit further. Thank you, Bobby. You would be the character in looks, mannerisms, and personality. By the way, do you say mannerism or mannerism?
Mannerism.
Okay. I've heard it the other way. I'm just asking. I said the same way. You would be... Hey, shh. I'm trying to ask a question here. Don't laugh at me. I'm trying to ask a question.
Do you say character or character?
Listen, I've heard people say it that way, and it's confused me, and I wanted to make
It should.
sure
It's
that...
wrong. Go ahead.
Now I feel stupid.
No. The people who say mannerism should feel stupid, not you. You're good.
You would be the character that you choose. You would be that character in looks, mannerisms, and personality. But it wouldn't be in the movie. It would be picking up where you are in life now. Andy, you would still be a lawyer, and Phil, you would still be a priest. But instead of being Andy or Phil, you'd be the character. That's the question. Oh my gosh. Please, I can't. Please.
Okay. I have many answers for this. I thought about some like quote unquote obvious ones like pick a Jedi, Aragorn, Samwise. But I think that those would actually kind of be insufferable in the everyday world. You know.
I think you would
Aragorn.
I think Aragorn because he's just struggling with everything at all times.
Indeed.
Just
It's like, dude, you're the king of all mankind.
Right,
let yourself smile every once in a while.
With it. Yeah.
And not for nothing, Jedis, not a lot of romance in their life, right?
Nope.
Not a lot of loving. So Indiana Jones, it's got to be up there because he's just he is a swashbuckler. That's a train in the background. Okay. Stand by.
I was worried that there was some sort of video going on one of our computers, and I was like,
Second Breakfast Nation, you should know that apparently the gardeners outside Phil's window are like blowing up the world, and I can't hear it at all. But a train goes by and everyone hears it. I don't know what's going on, but I think his windows are more airtight than mine. Anyway, Indiana Jones, he's a swashbuckler without a sword. He's amazing. He's just awesome.
Choice.
Atticus Finch, because
he's
already a lawyer, and he's just. And look, nobody goes to law school. I don't want to be a litigator, right? But even if you go to law school not wanting to litigate, not wanting to be in a courtroom, you still, there is still, and even if you go in for the most mercenary of reasons, I want to join a big firm, make a lot of money, and retire early, and that's it. There is part of you that wants to, win a big case. There just has to be. I honestly believe no one goes to law school without that. Richard Gere at the end of Pretty Woman, all right? Because that's after his personality has changed. He is a fantastically intelligent and successful businessman.
Wow.
But he is moral. And he has seen sort of the error of his ways.
And still gets the girl.
It's true, but unless I also pulled in Julia Roberts' character, that wouldn't necessarily count for this question.
That's a good point.
Another one that I considered, but I don't think I would actually like to be, is Crash Davis, because I would like to be Crash Davis in Bull Durham, but I don't know that I'd like to be Crash Davis in my life.
Right.
Same goes for Atreyu, because while he's awesome in his world,
he's insufferable.
And no one would take you seriously. You're a warrior. You're 13.
The other thing about Atreyu is, when you really watch that movie, he's not that impressive compared to what, it's almost all what someone talks about him. He doesn't do a lot of awesome stuff. I'd love to see a remake of Neverending Story where Atreyu just rocks the house, rocks the Casbah.
But I think so that almost made the cut. But I think another one that makes the cut, and it might be the one that wins the day for me, is Don Lockwood from Singin' in the Rain. Because who wouldn't want to be Gene Kelly?
You are. Can I say something before I even give any of my answers?
Yeah.
You're so much better at this than I am. So much better. Okay.
I'm not sure that's true, but please, I want to hear your answers.
Okay, so I feel like so in general that I take things too seriously.
Indeed.
Not just in general, but in particular, I took this question way too seriously.
Sure.
And part of the reason that I took this question seriously is because I'm a priest, and I spend a lot of time, a lot of my job, standing in front of people, putting something out there for them to take that I consider to be very important stuff, and so do they. So I got really, really if you were a litigator and you were litigating every day, you might have a different answer than your answer right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course it does.
So when I was thinking about that, I'm thinking what kind of person would I actually want to inflict upon these people, or could they handle? So obviously, there are characters that I love, but it wouldn't be fair. You know what I mean? I was thinking of, who was I just thinking of? But they're a drunk. I was this person's perfect, except that they're a drunk, so that would be a bad idea.
Sure. No, that's fair. That's fair.
I was I think the dude would be amazing because it would be amazing to see him preach a sermon, except he's also a total freaking stoner.
Yeah.
So that would be a bad idea, he's always drunk and stoned. That's not a good idea. I think when it comes to portrayals of religious people in films, and there's also a lot of they love to do religious hypocrisy. There's a movie by, I believe, Roland Joffe directed it, called The Mission, with Jeremy Irons and Robert De Niro. And if you're not a religious person, it doesn't matter. This is a phenomenal movie. You've seen it, right?
It has been probably literally 2 decades, but I think I have seen it. Yes.
See it again. It's got Liam Neeson in it and Robert De Niro and Jeremy Irons. I mean, it's solid.
Right.
And the guy who plays Maury from Maury's Wigs in Goodfellas.
Awesome.
He plays a despicable human being. So it's really good. But it's about the colonization of Brazil and basically of the way that was dealt with from between the Portuguese and the Spanish, and how the church was involved with that. And it's about a Jesuit priest who start missions there, and there's a lot of different opinions about missions and all that stuff, but and in some cases it's really bad, but in this case in many cases the people who started missions in colonized countries ended up advocating for the rights of the natives. And so what would happen is the countries, and even higher up in the church, they would be like, nope, sorry, we have to get rid of these missions because you're actually treating these animals like people. That was the mentality.
Right.
And that's what this movie's about. It's about the humanization of the natives. And anyway, Jeremy Irons' priest in this movie is to me, like, he's heroic to me. Like, when I watch that movie, I'm like, if I could be half, if I could be a quarter of what that guy is on a spiritual level, on an obedience level, on like a thoughtful level, on a gentleness and peace level, it is amazing. So that's my priest answer.
I love that answer. I love that answer.
On the other hand, I think being Edward Money, or William Money, I'm sorry, William Money, the main character from Unforgiven, would be the coolest priest ever.
Agreed.
I almost picked Outlaw Josie Wales, but because Outlaw Josie Wales doesn't hardly, he's just like, reckon so, and that's about all he says.
Yep.
But still manages to get it done. And I like the idea. People don't know this because I talk so much, but I really idolize people who talk less than me. So I really do.
I know you do.
So Clint Eastwood, who can get so much accomplished with so little, blows my mind.
That's absolutely true.
And in Unforgiven, his character, his wife dies like, I think she just dies. She's not killed or murdered by Indians or the North or whatever.
Yeah, I think so.
I think he's just a widower, which is different than being like in Outlaw Josie Wales, like his wife is gunned down. I don't want that. I do not want that tragic backstory, you know. But I think I'd want to be him in Unforgiven. The other one I think about, and this is a very tricky answer because there's many problems with this character.
I cannot wait.
Charles Foster Kane. Here's why. It's all for because as much as he is a disaster, he is a stubborn genius, and he does this thing. My favorite scene in the whole movie is when he's like talking to in Citizen Kane is the movie, by the way, guys. And when he's talking to his people about, they're like, your newspaper is losing this much money a year, and you can't keep doing it the way you're doing it. And he's like, well, I have this much money, so if I keep running it this way, I guess I'll be broke by the time that I'm $1 million. In other words, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and I don't care what it costs.
Yeah.
That mentality is why I love Charles Foster Kane, regardless of all of his faults. And that mentality is a kind of mentality I would love to see a priest have. Like, Father Phil, this is da-da-da-da-da. Well, you know what? We're going to do this, and if it fails, I guess it fails. But, I mean, I wish more churches had that attitude, I guess is what I'm saying. So that's sort of just like, well, this is the right thing to do, and if you don't like it, I guess we'll just have to shut our doors if it doesn't work. Like,
I love that.
So those are my three answers. William Money, whatever his name is from Mission. I'm sad that I don't remember his name. And since Charles Foster Kane.
I love it. Shall
we
move on?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we should. Our last question of the day.
Guys, this is what happens every time Phil reads the questions. It's not that he's bad at reading the questions.
The reason I'm reading the questions today is you did the gauntlet yesterday, our marathon gauntlet of 1 hour and 20 minutes, and you asked all the questions, and I felt like I wanted to give you a little breather.
I appreciate it. I do.
Because I love you in your mouth.
I sprained my tongue.
I know, and I want to do respect to that.
Yeah.
This is from a longtime listener. She does listen to our show, which I appreciate. And I think she asked a question a couple weeks ago, but she's a great question asker. Her name is Allison. And I want to say, hi, Allison. I want to say publicly that in my many years of acting, well, that sounded pretentious. But in my many years of acting, I have never had more fun on stage with anyone than I had with Allison.
Nice.
Period. And I have had some fun. That is not to demean the other times that I've had fun. It just is that's how much fun I had with her.
Can I? First off, I applaud that statement. Indeed, she's wonderful. But if you want to truly maximize your pretension when you talk about it, have you seen the movie With Nail and I?
No.
There is a character played by the guy who he just passed away, I think. The guy who played Harry Potter's uncle. Yeah,
he's or the guy who played the wheelchair-bound scientist in Naked Gun 2.5.
Indeed.
To show you how pretentious I am.
Richard Griffiths. He
Yes, thank you.
said he's talking to someone who's an actor, and he used to be an actor. He says, "It's true. I crept the boards in my youth."
I wouldn't even think to say that. That's amazing.
I know, right?
Wow.
Right?
Um, there's a bunch of people who will not understand what that means. Let's not help them. Let's leave it
That's
as it
fair.
is. Allison asks the simple but poignant question: what makes for a better movie? Great characters or a great story? What makes for a better movie? Great characters or a great story? Andrew, do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
Uh, I think we're both going to end up talking a bit, but here's my answer. Yes, I mean it depends, right? I mean, but to whatever extent, Allison, that is a cop out answer, I will endeavor to elaborate. Um, what usually attracts me to a movie, seeing a movie in the theater, is the story, because there is an element of if I'm in the theater, and this can mean a bunch of different things. I want the experience that I can only get in a theater, right?
Sure.
And something is lost, and that doesn't mean like explosions and wide shots of Lawrence of Arabia and like the horses running through Aqaba or whatever, but like it there is something that is lost when you go from a theater to a television, and characters, if they are good enough to pull me in, are not lost in that translation. You do not lose Charles Foster Kane from the big screen to the small screen. And so if I am going to see a movie in the theater, it's absolutely the story. But as I was thinking about this, I also thought about this. I thought about it in this way, and this is not by any means a blanket statement, but it seems to me that more often than not, characters are the driving force in comedy, action, and romance, and story is usually the driving force in drama, less so than the comedy thing,
Say
but
that.
less so
Say
than the
that.
character
Say
thing.
that again, because that's real. I want to really say that again, please.
In comedy, action, and romance, I think more often than not, characters are what make those things memorable for me.
Interesting.
Whereas
Okay.
with drama, it's usually the story, although that is not as true as the other subset, if you will. For example, I couldn't tell you beat for beat what happens in Animal House. I remember the big scenes, right? But I can tell you Bluto. I can tell you, Otter and Flounder. And yeah, The Hangover. Who cares? Frankly, who cares what happens in that movie? Yes, but it's about these people, right? All the good romance movies. You've got Once. You've got When Harry Met Sally. You have Charade. Roman Holiday. These are about the people who are experiencing these emotions. It matters that they're in Rome for Roman Holiday, but it doesn't really matter because it's about these two people meeting.
Okay.
Whereas with drama I think has changed the least since man, I'm about to get real pretentious. Since it was the inception of drama was, as we have said, to tell a story, to teach a moral, to provide a catharsis, and I think that is still largely true.
Yeah.
And you don't really do that through characters. It doesn't matter what kind of guy Oedipus is. It really doesn't. It matters what he does. And again, that's not a blanket statement. I don't mean to say that that's true for all comedies, all action movies, all
Sure.
romances, or all dramas, or any movie. And I'm not saying that's always true about characters and always true about story. But it seems that they seem to be able to I can divide them those ways, and it still makes sense to me. So that's my answer to that question.
I think your divisions are perfect, and I think that is so. I mean, that is so insightful, man. I got to tell you, for me, that is like you really nailed it again today. Your answers for these questions are just.
Thank you.
I mean, if there's a winner for the day, it's you. I think, but luckily we don't hand out prizes for this.
Indeed.
So I'm just gonna go. I agree. I love the way you think about separating the characters for this, and this is what I will say. I think the reason drama is generally better when it's good is that it respects the story and that the characters flow from that. I mean, so you and I both agree, and there's no question, and Allison would agree with this, that what makes a better movie, great characters, a great story, yes, is the answer, in the sense that a really great movie will have both.
Yes.
But to me, a great story will foster great characters, but great characters don't necessarily foster a great story.
Yes.
And the greatest, most complete comedies, action movies, horror movies even, to me are movies whose stories, who the structure of the story and what happens are memorable and are by turns frightening, funny, or thrilling. I think the structure of both Monty Python and the Holy Grail and Monty Python Life of Brian is amazing. Structurally, these movies are so tight, and the characters are able to play within that structure such that a story is actually told. Other examples, to me, one of the truly great comedy writers, Billy Wilder and his screenwriting partner I.A.L. Diamond, Some Like It Hot and The Apartment are two examples, and Irma La Douce are three examples of movies where the characters are amazing, but the stories carry those characters. And in The Apartment, for instance, Jack Lemmon's character is memorable because of what happens to him more than the way he's played or anything like that.
That's really well said. Yeah, that's really interesting.
And the best Woody Allen stuff is the stuff that's structurally sound.
Absolutely.
I am a sucker for really great storytelling. And not that none of us are. I mean, I'm not, oh, well, I am and other people aren't. But I mean,
sure.
That sounded totally wrong. What I mean was, like, I'll put up with characters that are less important if the story is special. And I think you can have a great movie with a great story but only good characters, but I don't think you can have a great movie with great characters and only a good story.
I agree with that.
I think you can have a good movie. But I think, these are movies where the actor wins Best Actor, but the movie doesn't get nominated. For instance, Flight.
Yeah.
Denzel Washington's performances in Flight is one of the most amazing things I have seen in a long time. And while I think that, and again, awards for art are stupid, we acknowledge this. While I think that Daniel Day-Lewis should have won, no question in my mind, it's almost like a shame that Denzel Washington, like that he had this performance this year.
Yes.
I also think it's a shame that Flight wasn't a better movie, because Flight is a very mediocre movie with one of the most hypnotic, nuanced, developed, thoughtful, careful, fearless performances I have ever seen in Denzel Washington's performance. And but it's not a great movie.
You know something you said? I think last week we answered the question about miscasting.
Yes.
And you know what popped into my head? Although Flight is easily as good an answer as this, or better, but what popped into my head was something you said last week. Michelle Williams in Oz the Great and Powerful is so good.
Yeah.
And all she serves to do in the final analysis is make you wish the rest of the movie were as good as she was.
Yes.
You know? And I liked it. I liked the movie, but I could have loved it because I loved her. And I usually love everybody else in that movie.
Yeah.
Because I do love James Franco usually,
Yeah.
and I love Mila Kunis, and I love Rachel Weisz, and that was a great character. It was a great performance, but it was a great character. I mean, Glinda the Good Witch. It's an amazing character, right? And it just
Yeah.
it just doesn't work, and so yeah. So that's really well said.
Don Draper and Roger Sterling are two characters, and Peggy Olson and Jane. There are characters on Mad Men that are so amazing, but it's the structure of the show and the thoughtfulness and depth of the show that keeps them interesting. They are servants to the story, and which reminds me of something. Okay, I am a huge fan of bluegrass music.
Okay.
I like really traditional bluegrass. There's like sort of spacey, what they call new grass, which is like they do, and it's like experimental and like I'm not interested. I want like old school dudes who live in Kentucky who you've never heard of, and I want to see them live. But here's what I love
as opposed to like Philip Glass doing bluegrass.
As opposed to Bella Fleck, who's really famous,
Fair. Okay.
Who is quite accomplished and quite good at what he does, and I respect saw him at Tufts. He came to our school, thought he was quite good, and I was like, he's very good. And then I was like, and that is all I have to say about that. Whereas to me, traditional bluegrass, especially live when you're listening to it, it makes you want to like jump out of your seat. But what's special about bluegrass as opposed to many other forms of music is you have basically all these different guys who are masters of their instrument, but a traditional bluegrass, they are confined to a structure and to a melody, and everything they do is in service of that. So they won't go out of bounds of the lines. They will stick within this thing, and like each person gets a solo, but it's a solo. They're all doing riffs or variations of the same theme, and then pulling right back tightly. It's all very tight, and it's all being slaves to the melody. That to me is what I like. That's what I see in Mad Men. It's what I see in Deadwood. There's some of the greatest characters, but the reason they're great is because the stories are great.
Some of the greatest poems ever written are sonnets, and that is such a restrictive structure, right? You've got the rhyme, you've got the meter, the number of lines. Everything is controlled. Everything is controlled, and yet there is something about structure and limitation that fosters creativity. If I can do anything that I want, what do I do? But all right, I have to push against these boundaries. Let's see what I can create. And I think that's and I agree with you, and not that it's a revolutionary statement, but the best movies have amazing characters and amazing story, and one of the things that happens is those characters are pressing up against the structure of that story.
That's it. They a good structure will develop good characters, and they will be memorable because they're doing memorable things, not because they walked or talked funny.
Right. But I also agree with you that it doesn't necessarily go the other way, that characters will not necessarily produce a story.
It is a great compliment to the Coen brothers that they are able to write such uniquely eccentric and odd characters that nevertheless it never feels to me like they're odd just for their own sake. That they are completely and utterly slaves to the story. And which reminds me, I need to say this because I need to go back to the second question of any character, because there was another one that I forgot to name, and that's based on Coen Brothers. That's Marge, the sheriff from Fargo. Frances McDormand's character. If I could be any character, one of the ones that living right now, like who I could be, her moral compass and her compassion and her ability to understand a situation and to do anything and to be who she is, utterly who she is, and comfortable with who she is, and to look at the world and see it for what it is in Fargo is beyond comprehension. And if I could be like Marge in Fargo, I would be the best priest in the world. So that is my actual new answer. But back to this thing, I think we've said what we need to say. One last thing. There's a movie directed by Barry Levinson, written by David Mamet, starring Robert De Niro and Dustin Hoffman, called Wag the Dog. This to me is a structurally perfect film, and the characters are memorable because the story is so perfectly told. See Wag the Dog if you haven't seen it. That's what I want to say about it.
Agreed.
Okay. I think that's it.
That's our mailbag.
Yeah.
Big week. Good week.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We have some exciting things happening next week. Can't wait to share them with you.
My gosh.
I know. What could it be? You'll have to wait over the weekend to find out.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. But until then, have a great weekend, everybody. This has been another week of Second Breakfast. I'm Andy Roth, alongside Phil Duvall. And that's the paper for our mailbag being thrown away. We'll see you again Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye.